Hey, 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 welcome you guys to the Christel Crawford Show, and I'm your host, Christel. For those of you guys that are new to the show, English is my first language, but on some days you'll never know it. I am a facilitator with Access Consciousness, and I've been doing this for about 7 years, and the Access Consciousness tools have totally changed my life. They change the lives of everybody that I use them with, and so this show is about taking a topic and actually riffing, using all the tools that I use that I'm aware of, so that you can have more ease in your life. All right, if that's something you want. I called this episode today "A Taste of Receiving," and if you don't know a lot about Access Consciousness, this show really won't mean a lot to you. If you got drawn here, then there's something you know about this that you haven't let yourself know. Hi, Marina. Hey, guys. But receiving is something that we talk about in Access a lot. And, you know, we crazy people say things like, you don't have a money problem, yet you have a receiving problem. You don't have a business problem, you have a receiving problem. You don't have there's no problems, there's just a lack of being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving. So I'm starting a 14-day deep dive that you're invited to, that the link for is somewhere around my head, and you can join me because I won't get to all your questions today, but I did write to my email list and ask you guys for questions because I want to make this as relevant to you as I possibly can. And so what I don't get to today in the show, hi Andrea, I will get to in the 14 days, and it's only $25 and you're warmly invited. So let's dive in. I am going to use your questions that you sent in to shape our conversation. And so let's begin. I always want to receive everything that is positive, nice, sweet, yummy, and so on. But if it's coming in moments where everything's just like falling down, hi Rita, hi Ava, and parts, and then I start a phenomenal reaction and judgment. Hi, Suzanne. Especially, it's coming up with some type of people. And mostly what am I doing in these kind of situations? Reacting and judging. And then I start to separate and shut myself down in my reality. Yeah, I know, I see what's happening, but I'm still not changing that. So what is here? I think this, I don't know if English is her first language, so this is a little rough, but babe, what is here is so magnificent that I'm not receiving and rejecting, that if I do and be that, then what else can appear in my reality? Okay, so thank you for whoever wrote this in. I didn't actually write down people's names. Hi, Gloria. But basically, like, what I understand from this is, like, I like things when they're nice, and then when they get shitty, I start reacting and judging. It's like, okay, cool. I shut myself down and then I separate and I see what's happening, but I'm still not changing it. So here's my first question about any of you guys that do this. When things get shitty and you separate and you start judging and you're like, yeah, I like it when it's nice, but when people and things start getting bad, never mind. My question for me, and that I would have for you, is like, what are you aware of that you're unwilling to be aware of? There was a long period of time in my life, and I'd say I just recently changed it in the last year and a half. There was a long, so if I just changed it in the last year and a half, the long period of time was about 43 years before that, where I did not want to know shitty things about anybody. I didn't want to know the shitty things, right? We talk about being aware of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But most of us just want to be aware of like the good, and we avoid awareness. Hey Leah, we avoid awareness of the bad and the ugly in other people and in ourselves. And so what happens is when you avoid awareness of that, you don't have choice, and you're at the effect of the bad and the ugly, and that's all that happens. So anywhere you go into reaction or separation or judgment is where you are avoiding awareness of what is. Which is really, really easy to say and a lot different to start implementing into your life. Like really, when you're looking at a life where you're doing a lot of avoidance or a lot of separation or a lot of reaction, you're looking at a reality where you've decided that these things that you don't want to receive mean something, are personal, are, an affront to you, right? There's all kinds of decisions and judgments that have gone into creating that reaction in you. So the antidote, truly, is a couple of things. One, what have I been unwilling to be aware of here? About this person, about my finances, about whatever it is, fill in the blank. What have I been unwilling to be aware of here? Would I be willing to receive it even if I don't like it? Now, receiving has nothing to do with you liking it or not. Liking it is a preference. We make that shit up. I like this and I don't like this, which just means nothing. It just means nothing. It's just preference. But what is a very different reality. Like, there's a lot of things about any one particular person that I don't necessarily really like that much. And for me to be able to receive I have to be able to receive all of it though, in order to have all the choices that I have available. Like, let's say, I don't even know, let's say I've got somebody working for me and my team is fucking phenomenal, but we've all got stuff where we function really well and we've all got stuff where we don't function really well. So if I, you get with somebody, you get into a relationship with somebody, or you start doing a job, or you start working with somebody with the fantasy that this is all going to be amazing. I love you, you're amazing, and we're going to work together. It's going to be so good. And then what starts to happen is reality, right? What's really there starts to show up. The way people really function, what they're actually going to deliver, how they really communicate, the dynamic between the two of you that you never got to discover until you got thrown in the ring together. All that shows up, right? Like, him and I have been together for almost a year now. We've got a year anniversary coming up, and this has been an intense year, because what has occurred. So if you take the fantasy that you started out with, right, and you let that flavor how you respond to everything. Well, I don't like that, and I don't like that, and that's abusive, and I don't like that, and you can't do that to me, and I don't deserve that, and you start going into all of these reactions, then basically you're living in the either or reality of should I stay or should I go? Because everybody and their brother is going to be being exactly what they are in your presence. Always. That's always how it's going to go, whether you hire somebody or you're with somebody or you have a kid or there's any people involved. So what I've learned to do is get that in the very beginning. I'm going to typically go to a lot of fantasy. We're going to be creating a lot of fantasy. And that what's going to show up is all the things, where we function really well, the stuff that gets better, the stuff that gets worse, where we don't function very well, where this way of functioning butts into my way of functioning and we fight. And so I'm going to either avoid that and let it be the reason and justification I leave. Or I'm going to receive it all and go, okay, cool, what is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it? And if not, or if so, how can I change it? And if not, what would I like to choose? But if you don't receive, you don't have any of those choices available to you, because you're functioning from some sort of fantasy that things are supposed to be the way that anybody said they were supposed to be, which never occurs. Always what occurs is what is. So what awareness are you avoiding? Question mark. And everything that is, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So you're so welcome. I'm just sort of trying to read your comments too. Should I stay or should I go? Cool. So, how much judgment are you using to eliminate receiving are you choosing? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So if you guys are new to that crazy statement, you can go to theclearingstatement.com and get a whole education on what that is and why it works. But I like this and I don't like this as judgment. Now, I do have things that just work better for me, right? So, that's that's none whatsoever. Yes, I know. All right, cool. So that's sort of the talk about receiving shit, but let's go into, maybe we can go into it a little bit more, because somebody else had another question about this. So she goes, I seem to be able to receive when things are going fucking great, but the shit is where I get stumped. And actually, this is going to be a great conversation. When the shitstorm's coming at me, my barriers go up and I want to fucking kill someone. It's a very reactive thing. Yes, preference is judgment. Exactly. So It's a very reactive thing, and then after I always seem to have that judgment thing that pops up saying you need to learn to receive from it all. But honestly, I just go completely into my head like, what the hell does that even mean? Anybody else? I cannot fathom what receiving from shit even is. Okay, I have something so good about this. Examples of receiving shit in my world look like this. My kids being assholes. My husband annoying me. Debt. A job I hate. Stopped receiving from that a long time ago. At times I have fantasies about taking off, leaving everyone, and going to live in a cabin in the mountains with woods and nature all around. I've found that this lack of receiving from what I've determined is shit is me putting huge ass blocks in my world. Also receiving shit with my body. I've gained something like 25 pounds and I can feel the lack of receiving from my body is huge right now. Okay, cool. So about, I don't know, a week ago or something in the Awareness Challenge, which is a free group on Facebook that you're invited to, what we do in there is every 30 days we pull out one Access Consciousness tool and I create a 30-day challenge around it. So we use that one tool for 30 times a day for 30 days. But to kick every challenge off, I do a 3-day mini class. And in this latest mini class, it was on having and accumulating money. And the thing about having and accumulating money is you have to be willing to receive money because you'll spend it otherwise. If you're not willing to receive money, all you'll do is spend all the time and then you'll always have a shortage of money because you're not willing to actually receive from it and have it. So one of the pieces of home play that I gave everybody was something that Gary Douglas created called a crap resume. Now, most people didn't do it, or if they did, they didn't share it, which is okay, because it's confronting. But the purpose of a crap resume is to write down on a piece of paper everything that you hate about your life. So your kids are assholes. So this is a crap resume right here. My kids are assholes. My husband annoys me. I have debt. I hate my job. Right? That's a crap resume. I've created a life that right now I just feel like shit in most of the time. I created that. But this is the thing about a crap resume. It's actually being willing to receive that you're a creator. Now, most of us avoid this awareness. We avoid knowing that we create everything that shows up in our life. You've got to be willing to receive that you're a creator. Why? Because if you don't receive that, you will not be able to create anything else because you can't create more from a space of lack or a space of resistance or a space of judgment. You can't create from there. This space where everything's shit does not invoke creation. So how do you change it? Well, you start to acknowledge that crap resume that you've got, you created it. And somewhere in there, there's lightness. That's like, I remember this. I don't remember when the first time was it happened, but it was probably in a big access class with Dane or something where we were looking at sexual abuse. And that's a whole other video. I've got a video on abuse, further on in my channel. But one of the questions that changes these sticky places where we've stuck ourselves with, this happened to me. My kids are just assholes to me. My husband is annoying, right? All these people are just happening to me. My life is just happening to me. I hate, we stick ourselves with, this is happening to me. One of the questions is, that gives you space if you're willing to receive it is, truth, did you create it? And it was so weird when I got a yes to that. Now it's a bigger conversation because did you create people being mean to you? No, they just do that because they're mean. But did you choose it? Were you creating something with the choice to come to this family? There's more questions to ask around that. So crap resume is, I created all this. Cool. Here's the turning point. If I can create all this shit, what else can I create? In that moment, you are receiving you. In the moment where you actually claim it, where you actually are like, yep, I did all this. Okay, cool. In that moment, you're receiving you. And asking a new question, which is like, well, shit, if I can create all this crap, what the fuck else can I create? Oh, that's awesome. Cool. And Ava said, anytime I'm choosing based on judgment, it's preference, not choice. In true choice, it doesn't matter what my point of view is. It's all about choosing what will contribute towards a greater future, choosing what will work versus what I like or not like. Exactly. Yes, getting out of preference is going, okay, cool. What can I actually choose here that's going to create the future that I want to have? Absolutely. Cool. So, what about you are you not receiving? And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. What about you are you not receiving? What creative capacity do you have that you're not acknowledging? Now, acknowledging is receiving. And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So to change a crap resume, you've got to receive that you created it and go, what other choices do I have here? If I can create this, what the fuck else can I create? And I mean, this was a huge turning point for me, and it occurred for me in the middle of the How to Become Money workbook. When you go, Gary says, go through that fucking workbook 100 times. You want $100 million? Go through it 100 times. So I don't know, sometime around time 7 or 8, this is kind of part of that exercise. And, the guy running the workshop, Roz, Gary, Roz, had this very conversation. Well, if you can create that, what else can you create? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want to look at or receive that I had created so much trauma and drama. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to receive the bad and the ugly about me. And trust me, I have done a lot of avoidance in my life. I had a good teacher. That's all my mom does. My mom does avoidance and neglect and all these other things, right? So I just bought it, took it up as my way of functioning in the world. And so, I'm coming into age 44 with, I'm paying down my debt now. I'm finally getting caught up on my taxes and my bookkeeping. I went to the dentist the other day after 7 years. I'm starting to work out again. I'm starting to take care in ways that I have not cared for myself before. But my primary functioning system was avoiding. And that occurs when you are not willing to receive you. You're not willing to receive what you've created. You're not willing to look at it. You're not willing to be present with it. You're not willing to let that awareness sort of tear you apart a bit and go, cool, what the fuck else is possible? I got the awareness this morning that I don't like receiving new things, i.e. a car, because then I am not aligning and agreeing with my dad. Cool. And the great thing about receiving awareness is that the moment you receive it, you have another choice, or 82 other choices, or infinite number of choices. It's like, okay, cool, I don't like receiving new things because then I'm aligning with my dad. Okay, great. What other choices do I have? Would I like to have a new car? Could I just be beyond what I've been letting limit me, right? Like in that moment, you have another choice. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can talk to this one. So my question would be how to stop stopping myself from receiving. I think one of the keys to this, at least there's been a couple of big keys for me with receiving, and one is I made the demand of myself, and this is brave, so I don't get that a lot of people will choose this. This is brave, but I made a demand of myself that I be willing to live fully exposed. Because the things that we use to stop receiving are the judgments that we have of ourselves. And you can only judge something that you've been or done. And so, even if it is you think you're judging someone else, like you're judging yourself. So I realized that I wasn't willing to expose a whole bunch of me, which means I wasn't really willing to receive me, and nobody else could receive the gift that I was, or receive me either. And so I started asking the universe to show me what it would be like to be fully exposed, to live fully exposed. And I recognized as I asked for that, because once you ask for something or you make a big demand of yourself like that, what starts to show up is all the areas where you are not living exposed, where you're protecting and hiding and covering and sheltering what it is you think is wrong. And so that's what started to show up. And there were so many things that I thought were so wrong about me. And we're talking 2 years ago, 3 years ago, so deep into being an access facilitator. So that was one of the things that I used to stopping myself from receiving. I also just asked the universe to show me, hey, can you show me what receiving is for me? Because it's so conceptual until it's not. It's a concept and a theory and a nice word until you are receiving. And then you're like, holy fuck, this is life-changing. And if you want to get a taste of what receiving is, like, I was going to do this live outside, but my partner is like in and out today a lot. So, but go outside and close your eyes and allow the sun, like, feel the sun on your skin. Feel the breeze on your skin. If it's rain, feel the rain on your skin. Feel whatever it is that's going on your skin. And then go beyond the feeling of that, the body, the physical sensation, into the energy of all of that. And once you go beyond the physical sensation into the energy of all those things, you are beginning to get a glimpse of what it is to perceive and receive. Being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving are an integral reality. So one doesn't exist without the other. So when you are receiving, you're also perceiving. You may not have clarity on what you're perceiving or, you know, what that is for you, and you don't know exactly what you know, but you know that you know, and then you're being. It's a simultaneity. And as soon as you come out of that reality, then you're into the give and take reality, which is like, well, I did this thing for you, now I want you to give to me. Even if you're not thinking that in those words. Anything where you get pissed off that somebody hasn't given back, or you give, and nobody gives back, or any of those versions, that's the give and take reality. That's not receiving. That's not the simultaneity of, like, you know, when my sweet Luna is around the house and she's just being herself, and I'm like looking for ways that I can contribute to her because she's just a gift and I want to just give her things. Like, that's the simultaneity of gifting and receiving. She receives it. So, you know, that's that reality, very different. If you don't want to expose yourself to the world, is it a lack of receiving you? Well, the thing is that that's not really a question. That's a conclusion with a question mark attached to you. But what I would ask is, like, is there anything about me I'm unwilling to receive, yes or no? And if there is, what would it take to receive that? You know, if I were fully receiving me, if I had full allowance of me, honoring of me, trust, you know, gratitude for me, vulnerability with me, would I have a point of view about showing up in the world? So if I'm not choosing those things with me, what else could I choose? And that's the thing I want to really emphasize, is that, again, this receiving will stay a concept until you choose. Until you choose what you want to have with it. Until you choose the reality you're going to have, no matter what you have to be or do to have it. Because no, you don't know cognitively what it's going to take to change this in your world. But this is what changes everything. This makes money show up in your world. This makes your business flow. This makes relationships actually work. This makes happiness a possibility. I don't have balance with gifting and receiving. What question to ask, please? There is no such thing as balance, my love. Have you looked at the earth? What is receiving for me? That's the question. So, when I hear about receiving, I often hear it talked about mainly the receiving part and not being received. This kind of perpetuated the idea that receiving is the equivalent of taking the brunt of everything. Okay, so this is just so you guys know, this is a mashup statement. There's a bunch of different things mashed together in this. And a lot of you have receiving and taking and abuse all lumped together in your worlds, just so you know. And the antidote to that, take a fucking foundation class. Get the original clearings of abuse, take some talk to the entity classes, and deep dive into the access tools, because this is not a reality on planet Earth at this time. This is a reality that we, as the weirdos and the willing of access consciousness, are making real. Where two or more people start to agree on something, it becomes a reality that's available to more people. So receiving is not taking abuse. It is not being a doormat. It's receiving everything and having total choice with no point of view. if I cut off so I'm pointing over there to my partner. So if I cut off awareness of everywhere he's functioning from, and I don't want to know that, I don't even know, what's a good example here? I can't even think of an example, but let's just say there's something about him I don't want to know. Then when he starts functioning from that thing that I don't want to know, I'm going to react. I'm going to be upset because I'm going to be shocked because I won't know it, because it will be this big surprise. But if I'm willing just to know everything about it, like I just observe and watch, and like things, we all reveal ourselves one way or the other, so I just watch. Then when, that thing pops up again, I don't really have any feelings about it. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like, I wondered when that was going to show up. But it doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean anything about our relationship. It's not a thing. It's just interesting. But that's the thing and that right there is the thing to work into your life if you do actually want a reality of ease and joy and glory. Right? And that's really what we're talking about here, is receiving is ease, joy, and glory. Every other thing besides receiving is control, fight, conflict, trauma, drama, every other thing. When you can receive everything, you can be whatever energy is required to transform and transmute the energy in front of you. Because you don't have a point of view and you've received all the information and you're willing to be all energies. So that can either be a fantasy or an idealistic, utopian ideal, or it can be a choice. And so my question is, what would it take for you to discover what receiving is for you? And what would it take for you to engage in such a way that the fight disappeared and the struggle disappeared? And what would it take for ease and joy and glory to be a reality that's even interesting enough for you to choose? Once you choose those things, the reality shows up. Until you choose it, it's not a possible reality for you. So, yes, that. And let me see if I can do one more quickie and then we will go for today. Okay. My question is, what can I be, practice, ask to keep my barriers against it down? That's an interesting way of putting that. And what can I be, practice, and ask to stay out of the mind games? Did I really receive that fully? Why am I even thinking about it? I clearly screwed it all up now that I'm thinking about it. That not so low level judging myself about clearly never getting this right, or rid of the distractors of, okay, now I'm grinning. Maybe all hope is not lost. So really my question is, what can I be, practice, or ask to keep my barriers against it down? And I don't even know if that's a question, but I'm going to talk to it. Oh, you're so welcome, Aisha. So, and what can I be, practice to stay out of the mind games? Look, the best tool in the whole world against mind games is interesting point of view. I have this point of view in the 10 Keys to Total Freedom. I can't talk about it enough. I will never stop talking about it because it's the best. If it's the tool you skip, it's the tool that will create the freedom you say you want. Most of us skip the very thing that's going to give us the freedom we keep wanting. We keep saying we want. We skip the one tool that would actually give us that freedom. Why? Because interesting point of view is not really a sexy road. It's not. It's not sexy. It's not like, I don't know. It's not super orgasmic until you get to the space that interesting point of view creates. It's work. Because what you have to do with interesting point of view is you have to take every thought and every feeling and every emotion and go, well, interesting point of view, I have that point of view, and interesting point of view, I have that point of view, and interesting point of view, I have that point of view, until the energy changes. And in the beginning, you've got a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions, and are any of them yours? No. But do you know that? No. So the work is in front of you, right? Like, how many of your heads run amok constantly? And I still have moments. It's way less now than ever before. I'm creating myself into a monster of consciousness. But in the beginning, what that looked like was driving myself fucking crazy with interesting point of view. I drove myself crazy. I remember actually doing it for 3 full days. And I felt crazy. Because I was like, I didn't even know that I had that many thoughts, feelings, and emotions, right? So So the pathway to the freedom you say you want is not sexy. It's filled with diligence and tenacity and presence to catch yourself in those things and then go, well, that's an interesting point of view. Okay, cool, interesting point of view. I have that point of view for everything. And that's why we skip it, because we don't want to actually do the work. So that would be my tool for mind games. And practice and ask to keep your barriers down. Practice lowering your barriers. And you guys can do that right now with me here on the live. It's like, put your barriers up and then put them down. And you don't have to inhale and exhale, but apparently I do. So put your barriers all the way up and then put them all the way down. Play with living barriers down, especially when you want to put them up. Especially then. And which means, again, there's diligence and awareness and presence with you required to catch yourself when you're doing barriers up. All right. So that there's many facets to this conversation. There's the practical everyday applications of the tools that you use to help yourself. And then there's the conversations that will expand your universe in this topic that you've never considered before. And that's why I want to do a 14-day deep dive. So you're invited. And please, if you got something out of this, share this with your friends, because this is a conversation we are going to have a lot more of. I'm a big fan. And I'm a big fan of you. So thank you guys so much for being live with me. And if you're listening in the future, thank you. And I'll see you guys next week.